They have 3 values in our organization, and the second value we call do the right thing. And we've named each of those values after superheroes. And I've named this one, the do the right thing, Mr. Rogers. So with that said, for us as a company, based in Pittsburgh, go Steelers, no Packers, Cleveland Browns, sorry. Our focus is to get the right data to the right people at the right time. That truly is our focus. And we do a lot of good things, and I think we're one of the only systems integrators on the stage here, which is a lot of fun too. But I think what I really want to get into is talking about getting the right data to the right people at the right time. There are 3 topics specifically that I'll cover. The first is this digital transformation journey. The second is going to be the MES, or aspects of the MES that can be one of those early steps. And then the third is going to be, there's more to the UNS. There has to be more to the UNS. What we've defined now, what Walker has presented, which has been fantastic, that can't be all of it. There has to be more. Let's call it UNS Plus, like Jeff Nepper did. He and I had a conversation before this conversation, like, UNS Plus, I'm going to borrow that. You mind if I do that, Jeff? I'll pay him the $12 later. But these 3 topics, I think, are really important. Right now, so many of you, as I've heard, and many other companies we talk with, have this ERP system that is at the top of the organization. And then you have hardworking people and hopefully hardworking machines, or maybe it's the other way around. I'm sure the people are working really hard. And in the middle, you have pieces of paper and spreadsheets. Almost every company, except for Tesla, of course, is working like that. And it's okay. It's where things are at. But we all know we can do better. We all know that we need to do better. Many of the companies we talk with, they say we need to go further because our competition is chasing us, catching up and beating us. Huge steel company told us that directly. The other situation most companies find themselves in is this. ERP is the center of the world. There are discrete connections between each of these systems. Huge amounts of technical debt set up, and you want to swap a system, forget it. It's going to cost too much. And then it becomes sunk cost fallacy. Oh, it's too expensive. We'll just keep what we have. That's kind of ridiculous. And then you also have islands of data as well, or data silos too. And what we, of course, want to go to is this. It's an idealized version. It's very high level. With this diagram, I'm definitely pounding that easy button. But conceptually, we should be setting up a system that allows us to exchange data and decouple systems. You've seen the videos from Walker. If you haven't, come to me. I'll point you to the videos, or I'll kind of give you the short version. I'll skip a lot of the details, but this is the essence of it. We need to be able to make data centrally available throughout the organization so everybody in that organization can see that data. We need to be able to decouple the systems and allow them to communicate. That's wonderful. There are some things that we'll get to in the UNS Plus kind of concept, but this is what we want to do. There's a journey, and you all heard about it, I think, a lot in various terms, and this diagram really helps a lot. And where we find most companies now, of course, is they've done that connectivity in the plant, if nothing else, so that operators can have laptops or kiosks to go to log into the ERP system and enter their data, enter their time, enter the part counts, and enter the scrap counts. One guy, industrial physicist, Mark, a good friend, is in Cleveland, and he works at a plant, and he said they have to walk too far. They really have to walk far to go enter that data and come back. And of course, when they come back, what happens? Oh, I'm going to visit my neighbor and talk about the game on Sunday. And they're like, what kind of production are you losing? Let's remove that data entry job title from the operator so that they can do their job and produce more and do more for the company and hopefully enjoy their job a little bit more because they don't have to do data entry. So companies will typically have, most often, hopefully, a network in their plant. But what do they need next? They need visibility. And any company that's getting that visibility is typically going to start with machines. Just understanding what machines are up and down, red and green, little chart with the list of machines. That's a great place to start. What's next? Audience participation. What's next? On a count of 3. Everybody shout out something. What's next after just visibility? 1, 2, 3. Transparency, yes. And transparency to what specifically? I'll give you an answer that I find most often, and it's downtime. So often they want downtime, unplanned downtime. With that unplanned downtime then come downtime reasons. Pareto charts are next, then production and scrap and OEE. Oh, well, by the way, let's actually contextualize that data. Let's get work orders in there. Usually it kind of happens in that sequence. If you're a private pilot, you know the sacred six. You got 6 dials. You fly the plane on 6 dials. I'm not a private pilot. Wish I could be. But they have the sacred 6. There are certain set of basic capabilities. Walker, in fact, has also talked about these basic capabilities. I think it's downtime, work orders, schedule, and something else. I forget what it is. But that's typically what companies are starting to move towards and want. Okay, let's set it up. And then they want to be able to understand why things are happening. You start to get into more of these Pareto charts and contextualize that data more. Going back to that diagram where you have the ERP system up here and the plant floor down here, and those pieces of paper. I mean, effectively, we're kind of digitizing that, but we need to connect those two systems. Let's get the context. What is that operator working on this work order? Who is that work order for, this customer? What raw materials are connected with that work order? How fast did they produce it? What was the plan? What were the actuals? Let's actually get that data. And then we can actually start to eventually, if we've modeled the data well in these prior stages, then we can get to predictive. We can start to do just basic statistics. We don't need to jump into ML just yet. Let's get basic statistics first. Do some basic regression analysis. And then we can start to jump further and do the ML and the AI and all the rest of that kind of stuff to identify the patterns and predict the future and all the rest of that. And then we can start to get into, what it says here, the autonomous response. That's all really valuable. But we really need to think about discipline and putting this together and being thoughtful about it. One of the earlier examples that I've heard this week was just over lunch today with Matthias in Sweden. In 1992 and 93, guess what technology he used to record data in his plant? Just take a guess. Starts with an L. You want to tell everybody? Lotus 123. There are people in this room that are younger or born after Lotus 123 came out and probably was deprecated. He had an amazing system, he told me over lunch, for being able to record data about the plant. And what was going on staying on top of everything. And part of the conversation with him was, why did we go backwards? So many of these people, they start to walk out the door and many companies start to lose what they gained in some of those basic systems. It's lack of discipline. It's lack of standards. Lack of momentum in these kinds of efforts and these digital journeys. So when we're setting up ourselves for these kinds of efforts, we need to have that digital strategy. We need leadership to get behind that digital strategy. We need to be able to have basic rules that come out of that digital strategy, those minimum technical requirements that Walker talks about. And then we need to define our architecture and agree on the architecture. And that architecture needs to fit the basic business requirements. And I'm not talking functional requirements yet, but just basic business requirements. We need to be able to become a data-driven organization. We need to push the organization further. We need to surpass our competition. We need to do a whole lot more. So then with that said, and then at that point, after the architecture, of course, select the technologies and get into all kinds of other disciplines. But we got to think back to where we were before. How does this thing go? Oh, there it is. Let's start. We've got the network. Let's start with that visibility. Let's get that basic dashboard of plants and red and green and downtime, et cetera. But, and we could, as a systems integrator, we can create a couple screens, connect to the machines and UNS, we do all that stuff. Equipment hierarchy scope, where does some of this data go, et cetera. We do all that. We help you with it. We enable you to do it yourself down the road. But where should we start? MES. Mesa says there are 11, I think it's 11 different capabilities for an MES. This is a brief interpretation, my interpretation of an MES. I did this screen for a conversation with a company in Cleveland, 20 plants or so, mostly in the US and some in China and a few other places. But the directors of the organization, I don't know that they really understood what an MES was. The MES is that, or the MOM, the MOM, the Manufacturing Operations Management System, is effectively defined in part by ISA 95, a standard. I love that standard. ERP, control systems, how do they communicate? And these are some of the basic functions: work order management, operations scheduling, production control, OEE, downtime analysis, et cetera. This doesn't need to be some big, massive, what ends up being a square peg you're trying to hammer into a round hole. It could be a small starter system. And I know there are some integrators out there, a lot of integrators, that have those systems they've already built. What we can do is what we've done is to work with a company that takes us even a little bit further as well. So the problem we're going to solve, I'm just going to do a very light version, but a problem we're going to solve is downtime. Unplanned downtime in that, of course. Kanoa, great company. Jason Koop, developer extraordinaire, MES extraordinaire. Well known in the community. Walker was walking around on Tuesday, I forget when it was, and told him what we were doing. He said, "Oh, Jason Koop, yeah, I know him. I worked at a previous job." Of course you did. What job didn't you work at that you didn't know 20 people and you still in contact with them and all that kind of stuff? Of course he knows them. Jeez, okay. I should have known. Based in Seattle. That's where Jason's at in some of his team. One of the team members I work with a lot is Sam. He's in Philadelphia. We're in Pittsburgh. You know, they won the Super Bowl, so good for him. And the Kanoa system, I'll just talk a little bit about how it's structured, a little bit of how it's built, show a couple things, talk about how it's set up so that we can solve the problem, and then go from there on to the next topic. So Kanoa is based on Ignition, much like Sepasoft. I love Kanoa. I love this tool and its flexibility. So you get Ignition. All you need to buy as far as a module is perspective. That's it. And then you have these modules: Kanoa Ops, Kanoa Quality, and Kanoa Trace. I kind of don't really think about Kanoa Core. Kanoa Core is that core set of functions that just comes with everything. If you're buying one of those modules, Kanoa Core is there. Kanoa Ops is the tool that does the work order management, the downtime, the OEE, the scheduling, the production control, and the analysis dashboards. And it has, as you can see on the left of the other modules, the Apex charts. Travis Cox, Ignition, or inductive automation, adding more value to the community. Amazing, amazing stuff. And the BIJC calendar is a very Outlook-like calendar with lots of flexibility for setting up repeating schedules and all that kind of stuff. It's really nice. If you're going to communicate with UNS, of course, you need the Cirrus Link MQTT. Thank you, Arlen. And if you want, you could do the historian as well, but you don't have to have it. Quality is about SPC, being able to capture and work with quality data more than the basic ops tool does, and also gives you a lot of data entry options for being able to talk about or to record data, all kinds of data around quality, automatically based on certain events in your plant. Pop up a screen, force the operator to enter quality data, or you can go enter it, or it's lots of other kind of fun things. And then Trace, the latest module that they put out. Materials, define your materials, define your lots, define the events for your lots as they go through your plant, and then you have some really nice trace graphs to understand where things are at this point in time, and also then traceability after the fact. Really huge benefit. So setting up Kanoa, let's go through a couple screens here. The first step, I won't talk about the installation, but it's fairly straightforward. The first step in Kanoa is to go into this screen. Just to keep it fast, I'm just going to show a few screenshots and then we'll get into the live demo. You set up your assets: enterprise site, area line cell, or work center, work cell, or work unit. So you can set up your assets, set up the basic information, push that OEE enabled checkbox down on the bottom right. And then at that point, what happens is that Kanoa will automatically generate the OEE UDTs. And these are parameterized reference tags. And then in those reference tags, you tell it where to go for the values from the MQTT tag provider in those references. And then at that point, you start seeing data. It's fairly straightforward. And I don't want to say, oh, it's so easy, everything's going to work fine, and you're done in 5 minutes. It takes a little bit of time, it takes a little effort. A lot of the work is really in getting set up. And that's one of the challenges. I'll just pause here on this slide to just talk briefly about one of the challenges we find with working with companies. And it's not as though they're intentionally slowing the projects down, but that kind of is what happens. One of the things that we have found is that they're not ready. Well, if I'm going to take a trip, to grandma's house or on vacation, like last minute, oh, I forgot this and I forgot that, and I didn't think about it. I didn't plan ahead enough for it. And sometimes the same thing happens in starting these projects as well. For one project we're on, the servers weren't ordered ahead of time enough for the Dublin plant. Oh, you got to pause. We got to wait for the servers to come in. And then the servers come in. Oh, wait, what about the SQL license? Oof, okay, we got to figure that out too. And so what we've done is to come up with a pre-launch checklist of all the things that need to be done. Let's line up our ducks in a row before we start. And that has become pretty valuable for us and also for the manufacturers. We end up sometimes, and this isn't, I'm not trying to make a crass remark, it's you've got a lot going on in your plant. And you're trying to get everybody to agree to this, which is hard. When has Congress ever agreed on something, let alone IT and OT? So then at that point, we start to think about going through this list. Hey, you've got to do this, and you've got to do this, and this has to be said. Okay, great, good. How long do you think it's going to take? A couple months? Okay, great. We'll call you back then, or we'll check in with you throughout that process. Once all of that stuff is done, we've gone check, check, check. Project launch, project charter, etc. We always use a project charter. Please force your integrators to use project charters to get on the same page as soon as you start a project. Really, really valuable. All right, switch over to the screen. And of course, I need these. I am advanced in age. You can notice all the gray hair. Make sure my trial, oh, I got 7 minutes from my trial license, still going. Okay, can I do this in 7 minutes? So the basic idea then is that I land on this page. I'm trying to solve downtime. I have data coming in feed, out feed, waste, and state. And then I can see from a big picture all of my assets, the red dots with the exclamation point are below OEE. Click on it. These are the screens that operators can use and see. You have complete control over how this stuff works. I can go to the user management section. You have a lot of control. You can actually set up users to be limited to seeing certain assets, to having certain capabilities within the tool. Really nice, really flexible. So at this point, I want to look at my downtime states. Here's the downtime that has been coming in already automatically. And if I want to edit one of them, I can. I can also add a new downtime state. I love these stripe charts. They are really helpful. And I'm being serious, like they are really helpful. And then at that point, I can select a state, define the time. I'm not going to go through all this because my typing and clicking with the trackpad is terrible. And at that point, then, I've defined a downtime as an operator. Now, between you and I, and this will be a conversation that we have with Jason and Sam at Kanoa, could that interface be better for an operator? Oh yeah, sure. Fat fingers. I'm in a rush. I'm running, at some plants we've been at, I'm running 6 CNC machines. I don't have a whole lot of time to do data entry. Actually, maybe we won't even talk with Jason or Sam about it. We could actually create a screen ourselves. Because this is based on Ignition and we have those core capabilities, we can modify those screens as we want and create our own new screens. And based on the flexibility within this tool, we can add a new screen. I'm probably going to ask one of our guys, Mason or Taylor or somebody, not Taylor Swift, Taylor that actually went through the mentorship and the mastermind and was one of the first ones to finish the step 1, I think. Amazing guy, brilliant. I'm going to ask them to create a screen to pop up and then list the reasons and big fat old button so that I can use my thumb and just select it rather than having to click those tiny little things. So the idea at that point is that I can get that data from the system and then go back I should go back here. Go into my dashboards, or I could actually go here into this navigation and go to analysis under ops. Oh, I only have 2 states, so that's interesting. I had a lot more before. And then voila, the magic reveal. Here's the answer. And I can get my downtime minutes by category, my downtime by reason, and all kinds of other things. I think this is why. What's our downtime look like for the week? Think, 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 and the data is populating. Quality holds and out of in-feed material. That's been a big problem for us recently. There's your downtime. Let's start to solve that downtime. Now, I recognize I'm not doing some amazing technical, mind-blowing thing like Lenny and Jeff did. They're really smart, and all the other people, I heard Google's was really interesting. Everybody's really interesting. Just wanted to touch on a few high-level topics. And really to kind of let you know, this stuff, while complicated, it's Taylor Swift on the mind now. Walker said, digital transformation is hard. It's really hard, throw in expletive. Yeah, it is hard. Let's be thoughtful about it. Let's be a little bit more proactive about it rather than that last minute packing for the vacation like I do. Let's be thoughtful about it. Let's put a few pieces in place and let's start. Let's start. I have had some really interesting conversations this week with companies of 20 and 30 plants and big MES systems that their executives are trying to put in place. And well, guess what happened to that project? It stalled. It might be canceled. And here we're talking over dinner and beers last night about, what should an MES really be like for a company? Should we try to tackle everything all at once? No. How do you eat an elephant? One small bite at a time. And what should that system look like for you? Should fit like a glove for that plant. The way Walker has talked about MES systems, custom, not off the shelf. I like Goldilocks. I really like Goldilocks. Goldilocks on the 3 bears. The porridge is not too hot, not too cold. It's just right. The bed is not too hard. It's not too soft. It's just right. Let's look for that moderation. It's a topic from the fireside chat around standards. Not too much, not too little, just right. Nobody said Goldilocks except for me. Goldilocks, I love this idea of Goldilocks. Let's figure out the right fit for that MES system. That custom versus off the shelf, for me right now, it's Kanoa. Really solid product off the shelf, get it in place, highly customizable, start up a few features. You don't need to use traceability and quality right off. Let's do some of the basic things, those early things in that journey, in that continuum. And then from there, you can really start to get that visibility and that transparency that all of you talked about. So with that said, let's cut over to the slides again. I kind of lost track of where am I at. Oh yeah, demo, that's what we did. Basic architecture, this is very simplified. I usually have lines connecting things and this and that, the other, not going to spend much time. Okay, there you go. There goes the slide. But I can come back to it for those taking photos. But it's very simple. The part on the bottom right, Hive, Kanoa, Ignition, those are the parts. And if we need to, great, let's start to historize data. Canary, love Canary. They're 2 hours from us. Just the vicinity alone isn't the only reason why we like their tool, but they're great people and great company. And then you add Flow, the guys that just preceded me. Did Jeff tell any bad dad jokes at the beginning? No? Because of course he did. He always tells bad dad jokes. I told him I'm going to tell bad mom jokes, and he said there aren't any. There aren't any of those things. Okay, that's fair. But this is the basic architecture. Now to the questions. Walker said, we must answer these questions. Okay, sure, no problem. Yeah, okay. We started with, or always start with an engineering study. In any kind of project, we have to understand what's going on. We have to walk into the plant. We have to talk with people. We have to figure out what you're doing. And then at that point, let's document it. And then, at least based on this example that we're talking about here with the flexible packaging plant and all that, the UNS has already been set up, but let's just pretend. We could start the machine connectivity in the UNS work after that study, if we're really cramming things together. And then after that, we can start the MES starter implementation. So the way Kanoa does it, and the way we're adopting as well for an implementation like this, is 1 month with a lot of fairly intense work. We'll have done some prep and planning and all the rest kind of stuff, figure out the team members and the time that they need to spend on the project and all that kind of stuff. But this is a paid project where we're implementing the tool, installing, connecting to machines. We've got some of the connections done. We're continuing that while they're actually doing the work on site. And then after that, use it for 2 months. From a commercial perspective, the way Kanoa has been presenting this is we do this 3-month project, and then you pay for the implementation, but you don't pay for the licenses. You get all 3 modules and all 3 licenses, use as you like for 3 months, and if you don't like any of it afterwards, you're done. Don't have to do anything else. No commitment for licenses or anything. And the idea is that if you like it, okay, well then let's continue. Let's put it in place. So we'll figure out what makes sense. I'm going to pause for a second on this schedule. So at this point, for the schedule, again, what's really important is all of that planning. That planning is hugely important. That pre-launch checklist, that Dublin, the servers haven't, and I'm not blaming the Irish, Mark. Really, I'm not. I promise I'm not. But the servers weren't ordered. The SQL Server license wasn't ready yet. Okay, well, that's fine. Just blame it on the US guys because it's their plant anyway. We have to be thoughtful about all that. So this schedule is kind of crammed together, but honestly, in 2 months, we can have the system running, and 1 or 2 more months, we can have it proven. So anywhere between, let's call that 8 to 16 weeks, we're done. So with that said, for the 2 minutes and 17 seconds that I have left, what's next? The UNS has been fantastic, absolutely fantastic. The work, the influence that Walker has had for all of these ideas have been outrageous. He's really got us all going. He's brought us here into this room, and his team has done an amazing job at this conference. And that's why I think about this idea of Mr. Rogers and the personalities. Everybody's been so friendly. You go to IMTS or others, and it's not as though they're all mean or anything, but you have all kinds of topics, including that big robot that picks up the Corvette or whatever it's going to be. Okay, that's cool, but does that apply to what I'm doing and what I'm interested in? Probably not, but it's really darn cool. But this conference has really brought us together to speak, and talk, and learn on this topic. I've learned as much as I've taught. I've learned more than I've taught. But there's more. UNS right now has been really level 2 oriented. Connect to the level 1 systems, gather that data, look at it. Some level 3, level 4, don't want to ignore that. There are, okay, yeah, we can have this namespace for some of the MES data and for the ERP data, et cetera. But when we start to think about 5 plants, 20 plants, 30 plants, and we're having those conversations with companies, like this whole UNS idea is still pretty new. We're still figuring this stuff out. So we need to start to think about integrity of data communication between those other systems. We need to start thinking about structuring the data to be able to standardize the structure of that data for the organization. We need to start thinking about orchestration, BPM, business process management, Commuta as an open source example. We need to start thinking about a few other things. And at the bottom of the list here, we need to start thinking about, within this integrity of data communication, the message acknowledgement. The broker will tell me that it got the message, but the broker won't tell me it got to the other side. MQTT5 does that in some ways, but we really need to start thinking about that. The schema validation. Is it good data? Was it good format? And all the rest of that kind of stuff? I don't know. Was that message sent twice? Or that's a little typo by my part there. What if the message is sent twice? What do we do with it? Do we actually create 2 orders? I hope not. Who's going to pay for that? And we don't know all that stuff. We should log, we should error handle, all these kinds of things. What I propose next year when this happens, the same conference, it's going to be bigger, 1,000 people and vendors and all this kind of fun stuff, is the next fireside chat be about this, the UNS Plus. What's next? Because we're talking with and working with plants that are companies, plants that are big, 2 million tags, companies that are big, 20, 30, 40, 50, and more number of plants. And how do they do this? Let's start to figure this out.
We will switch to our Q&A, but before we do that, I thought he said that some of you said that there were some bad dad jokes that was given. Do you know what the difference between a bad joke and a dad joke is? The first letter. All right, same question that we're asking everyone. What's the best alternative to solving the same downtime visibility problem, and why is your option better?
Ask Matthias, Lotus 123. Do you still have a copy of that on the 5.5? No, you don't have that. You lost those 5.5-inch floppy. Okay. Honestly, the best alternatives are to go with some larger companies with their proprietary solutions. That can work. I would say best alternatives. Some other alternatives are the types of companies that have those machine monitoring systems that are pretty much the machine monitoring. They're a lot less expensive, but they don't really, you run into a glass ceiling with those kinds of products. And I love some of those products. We've worked with some of those companies and installed some of those products, but they monitor the machines, give you OEE, but you want to do MES stuff? Forget it. You want to integrate with the ERP? Maybe, but they're not really that great. So we found that this kind of stuff works really well. I hope that's a good answer. Is that a good answer?
Good. Yeah, I think so. You didn't answer the second part, which gives you a chance to shine.
Yeah. So well, here's one of the things that I've found with some of the things that we've done in the past. There's a company based in Cleveland. They have a lot of plants, a different company than the other one I referenced. Lots of companies in Cleveland. And we were quoting a project for their plant in California. And we were actually using the Sepasoft batch module. It's pretty good. We finished the quote, sent it to them. About a month later, got a call. Are you sure this pricing? Are you sure? Let's confirm. Let's review everything. Did you include everything? Like, is your price accurate? Yeah, let's do this and that. Yeah, it's all fine. A couple of weeks later, hey, congratulations, you got the job. Oh, awesome, great. Okay, let's figure it out. Let's go. About 2 days later, I get a call from a guy from Rockwell. And he said, you ate our lunch. You ate our lunch. Like, what did he put in the quote? Like, what was he thinking? I have no idea. I never found out, but I suspect it was ThingWorx and a bunch of other things, and suspect it was 2 or 3 times higher. It was crazy. Let's do the right thing for the manufacturers. Let's use the right tools. Let's make these solutions scalable, flexible, affordable. And another example, too, if you don't mind, just real quick. One of our guys years ago used to work for an end user in Ohio, and that end user was quoting ignition for, I think it was 7 plants. And they worked with another provider of solutions, very comparable in the end for whatever licenses that they had to provide. And it was a company that they who shall not be named kind of company. And their price was about 7 times higher than Inductive Automation's ignition for that pricing. Holy crap. I feel like using some word that starts with an F. Like, are you kidding me? That is crazy. That's outrageous. Let's do the right thing. Mr. Rogers. That's what I think. Sorry, go ahead.
So let's keep with why choose Kanoa over Sepasoft, both ignition-based modules?
Really good question. Thank you. How to summarize it succinctly? It's sort of like that idea, if I had more time, I would write a shorter email. So give me time to write that shorter email. It's more flexible. Honestly, it's more flexible, and also it has more capabilities out of the gate. That flexibility piece comes from the idea that when we've worked with Sepasoft in the past ourselves, there are a number of technical issues, but it's that expression that one owner of a company that I worked with a lot, if you want to get from your finger to your thumb, your pinky to your thumb, you got to go around your elbow to do some things. You're so pigeonholed in some ways, but the way that they've set it up, Jason Coop, again, amazing. He has set up an amazing level of rigidity within that solution, as well as an amazing level of flexibility around it. And also, I should say, his ER diagram, his entity relationship diagram for the SQL database in the back end, it's so beautiful. I have honestly thought about printing it out on a big piece of paper and putting it on my wall. It's so beautiful and colorful too. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So what's your biggest challenge as an integrator you face when trying to implement a UNS architecture?
Some of them I've already talked about. It's like, are you ready for everything yet? Some of it is about getting everybody on board. It's really mostly the preparation process. Most of the people we end up talking with are process engineers, manufacturing engineers, the guys and gals in the plant, process improvement engineers, et cetera. Guys and gals in the plant trying to solve the problems. And they're like, we want the solution. Come on, let's go, and trying to get everybody else on board. One of the other challenges is IT. IT aren't like the enemy. They are our friends. Let's just get them to the table early. And hopefully they are of the mindset and of the culture that they respect the operators because, I mean, let's be real. We're here to enable the operators. We should be here to enable the operators. They are our friends. They are the reason that we exist in manufacturing. Nothing happens without them.
Okay. Your pricing did not have MQTT broker. You showed HiveMQ.
Yeah. So when we start off on projects, sometimes we're using some of the, we'll call them the community editions. If MQTT published their pricing, so it's a good call out, thank you, it's my fault. If they published or talked about their pricing in their presentation, used that price, whatever it was, because they said they would be talking about their pricing. But we're usually using the community editions of the brokers. But if we get to that, maybe that's a booth question, kind of like Jeff said. That's a booth question. I don't know what they talked about for pricing, so let's do that.
I'm going to ask this one because it's more related. Your architecture showed Flow as well. Does Kanoa leverage Flow, or is it Python-based analytics?
The analytics in Flow are dashboards. Let's call it analysis. Those are dashboards. The flow is simply going to the database to pull all kinds of data and do all kinds of munging and aggregating and all that and doing a lot of amazing stuff. Does that answer the question, do you think?
It does. This
Okay.
one, I'm going to turn this statement into a question. Is the best Freudian slip of the conference Talker Reynolds?
Yes. Did I say that? Did I actually say that?
I think so.
It's true.
Do you happen to know if Kanoa modules are validated for life sciences? I mean, it's more of a Kanoa question.
Yeah, it is, and I'm not sure about that. That's another booth question. Let me call Jason or Sam. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a really good question. Especially with the traceability feature, that would be really valuable.
Okay.
For life sciences.
We answered the other one, and then we have, a couple minutes. We answered that one. Oh, it's going quick. Does Kanoa have a free trial? You know that?
The 2-hour trial, no. The basic principle is let's do that 3 months, get it installed, et cetera. They'll do all kinds of demos, and also, I should have mentioned this. So here's a good way to answer that question. If you go to their website, go to the main page, kanoa.ai, Kanoa.ai, scroll to the bottom of the page, there's 2 links. One that's on the right that says, schedule a demo, and the other is self-guided tour. Click that one. And you will actually see the full system, read-only. You're not going to be able to create work orders and all that, but you'll be able to see the full system in action, all 3 modules, which is awesome. And their documentation, docs.kanoa.ai, really good documentation. Really good. Other systems don't have good documentation like that. Theirs is really good.
Well, this will be an interesting one for you as an integrator, not representing either. Is there a situation where Sepasoft makes more sense than Kanoa?
Yeah, that batch module that we used. That batch module was actually pretty good, and they don't have that capability yet. Having said that, the trace feature just came out. I don't know what Kanoa has planned in the future, but there are certain capabilities they have. And I'm not here to bash. I'll simply speak facts. Sepasoft still has some of their modules in Vision, in Ignition. I haven't heard any plans to change that. That's serious technical debt. When we're working with Perspective, and we got our tablets, and we got our phones, and I was using the app the other day on my phone, I'll just leave it at that.
All right, we are right at time. Why don't we give Kevin a round of applause for his demo?
Thank you.